Welcome to another video and Happy New Year to all of you. This time I want to give you a brief overview on my initial thoughts and impressions about the Reaper, and I have to say, it might be the best melee I ever played so far. But let us dive into the edgy details, shall we? First of all, while on other jobs it always depends on personal taste if you prefer animations and skill aesthetics over those of others, here I cannot believe that there's a single player that doesn't celebrate these insanely cool looking animations of the Reaper. At least when unlocking your Enshroud ability through the Reaper quest featuring the best cooldown phase I played on the entire job selection, your character literally transforms into the avatar of death, but your face still remains that of your character. Damn, that is attention to detail and not the bland metamorphosis in WoW. Yeah, I actually like that as well, but there the only separation was being a male or female that differed your appearance. Here you can still see base traits of your own character like facial features and such. However, all of this is amplified by the screen shaking of animations, and while I really enjoy summoning Bahamut or the real cool jumps on Dragoon, animation wise the Reaper is my absolute favorite now. Combat just feels heavy and impactful, and when turning to my mathematician student calculating in real time, this impact is being approved by big numbers as well. Nonetheless, all of this only holds strong if that playstyle is good as well, right? And I can tell you, it is a blast. Yes, on low level ranges lacking your Enshroud or even Gibbet and Gallows combo attacks feels very boring, so tackling content below level 70 emits a feeling of hollowness and being kinda incomplete. But in all honesty, that is a department where overall Endwalker seems to lack quality right now. They definitely have to address low level content and how it affects the job skill sets. But when finally unlocking these skills at least, things get interesting the higher your level goes. Gluttony being a very cool alternative to your Bloodstalk and Grimswathe with a super cool animation, followed by Enshroud and its reaping abilities that have a reduced recast timer, which I'm a really big fan of, and love to have this machinist-like fast burst window feeling. That absolutely makes combat seem faster, and with the heavy intensity of animations really grants the impact of the true burst window. But while these abilities seem to be the big seller, in my opinion the small details and fine-tuning skills are what make the Reaper so enjoyable and amazingly fun to play. Starting with Soul on level 82, that is the best idea so far to use your time in intermission phases when bosses disappear and you don't have any target at all. The animation also looks freaking awesome, and this can help you with movement situations where otherwise uptime is hard to keep up on the boss. But the story doesn't end here. In dungeons, this ability becomes a very handy tool to smash in the final big wave of damage before your enemy pack is about to die, and while you have to hardcast this ability during battle, when being out of combat you can freely use this to proc its attack, so in between each group pull and bosses. And even though you gain access to Arcane Crest on level 40 already, it is indeed getting super interesting on level 84 due to its new trait to grant a powerful regen effect onto the Reaper's party when the shield breaks. I mean, whoever came up with the idea of such a loud and clear sound effect to know that you succeeded in breaking it with raid-wide or AoE damage is just genius. And that this ability is on a short 30-second cooldown is simply amazing, and in my opinion the best defensive ability so far, because it picks up the reactive and interactive ideas of the Blackest Night or other tanking abilities, but granting it a DPS job, which I absolutely like, especially when being paired up with such a short cooldown. And when turning over to utility, yes, the Hell's Ingress and Egress set looked amazing on the job action trailer. But in all honesty, it does get even better in real in-game fighting scenarios, because I have already found so many situations where this combo is much more useful than any other gap closer or back jump in-game right now. And I'm really glad that this doesn't deal damage. Utility should never be sacrificed for damage, and I'm happy that Square agrees on this aspect in Endwalker job design as well. And last but not least, the fire really starts to burn on 88 with Plentiful Harvest, that grants you a kickstarter into your first Enshroud entering combat, which is being highlighted by the powerful finisher Communio on level 90. And I really like the idea of it being a ranged attack, but couldn't utilize this potential yet due to how fast you're crushing through the Enshroud combo, which you can also interrupt without any penalties, for example if you forgot to reapply your Shadow of Death effect before entering Enshroud. But overall, I love how flexible all of this is compared to a Dragoon, for example. The whole rotation lets you decide when to hit certain abilities, and unless you're breaking the cycle of Soul Gauge Gainer, Soul Gauge User and then Soul Gauge Proc Attack, you can freely adjust your rotation accordingly. Especially when comparing your positional requirements on the Reaper to other jobs. I'm so happy to have free options when to use them. Being forced with a strict rotation pattern always locks you into bad situations where you might not get the spot of desire hitting the right side. The Reaper can easily achieve that by delaying Gibbet and Gallo to whenever you have more time and freedom to hit positionals properly, or when your True North comes back off cooldown. So on that regard, the whole rotation is much more forgiving than on any other melee job so far. Even more than on the Ninja or Samurai. It is just so much better in nearly all aspects, at least for me that plays melee jobs very casually and still cannot land these positionals properly. But yes, Reaper isn't totally free of critique, as I'm really curious if we still need things like the Shadow of Death buff. And I'm not only thinking about this on the Reaper, but this spell really stands out to me of how clean everything else is designed otherwise. Yes, it grants this last portion of skill requirement to time this buff properly, and with the option to increase its overall duration by applying it a second time, this is super great. But abilities like these that basically all other melee jobs and even tanks have as well, just take out the combat flow and how fast you're able to start into burst windows and such. Yet compared to the personal buff that Dragoon, Samurai or Ninja use, it has the one downside of being bound to a target, so when having to take down adds very quickly, the Reaper is being in a disadvantage compared to its competition. But the way it stands on overall balancing or all the other aspects that it seems to do better than its melee counterparts, I can easily accept this one downside. And if they're going to take out skills like Shadow of Death or other buffs, they need to do it for all jobs or none at all to make it fair. On the other hand, I would love to see improvements and impact on these ranged attacks like Harp. Yes, it is great to see that you can use it even without being instant proc through Hell's Ingress or Egress, but ranged attacks as melee jobs are always the emergency solution, because even now, when not interrupting your melee combos anymore, I would love to see a better reward for timing your utility skills with them properly, and avoid losing uptime and potency at all. Nonetheless, overall the Reaper is definitely my favorite melee job now, even though I'm still interested to see the Samurai and Monk changes as well as testing out the Ninja. But the benchmark of soul reaping and just being the edgiest of them all is really tough to beat. And if I feel to change positions and ranges to step into the melee zone from time to time, I honestly think I will stick with the Reaper to do that. It still falls under the same disadvantages compared to a summoner or the physical range jobs when it comes to freedom of movement and flexibility of positioning, but it is much milder than on any other melee job so far, due to the minimal skill requirement to hit positionals properly. Above that, AoE damage is super rewarding and much better than I thought initially. Especially on later levels you really have damaging highlights in the form of Communio or the whole Enshroud phase, pushing up your AoE DPS significantly over your normal combo or even the Soul Gauge combo, while being insanely cool to watch. So in conclusion, the skill level of a summoner, machinist, bard or dancer is unbeatable in fights like the Brighter Extreme Trial for example, where certain light ways force you to literally dance with your character, or whenever exact positioning becomes relevant. However, if we take it that way, the recent balancing of the Reaper is the only one that fits, and just all the other melee jobs should be pushed to that value. Melee jobs should deal more damage than casters or ranged physicals, except the Black Mage. They lack the raising potential or the flexibility of either, and have a higher skill requirement due to positionals being a thing. So please take the Summoner and Reaper as benchmark, they're balanced exactly in the way it should be, and adjust the other jobs accordingly. So that being said, the Reaper right now is the best melee job in my opinion, and that job where balancing actually fits to these core ideas of how jobs are separated. The only aspect where it's absolutely overtuned is its style. There is simply no competition standing any chance against this phenomenal Enshroud avatar stance and these screen shaking skill animations. Battle wise, it just feels clean and well thought out and much better example of melee combat than the clunky and animation delayed Dragoon. Yeah, just my opinion still, but I would love to embrace changes on Samurai, Ninja and Monk that I haven't played yet, to aim into the exact direction. So, the Reaper is my personal benchmark to melee job design and balancing, and I would love to see other jobs being led into that direction. But more importantly, what do you think about the Reaper? Is it the best melee for you as well, or is it insanely overhyped being a melee job enthusiast that doesn't get satisfied by these simple skill requirements? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. So for now, stay tuned for the Reaper level 90 rotation coming tomorrow, and until then, stay safe, stay healthy and keep loving Final Fantasy.